the required resources to support the teaching and learning process. Just a second, you remember that last year we were on the back foot on this one, and we had to develop a response plan and a turnaround plan on how to reverse that saga that we have sometime last year. And therefore, this is the plan that we are talking about now that has actually yielded these statistics that I'm going to give to you. Currently, as we are today, the current status of delivery in terms of the learner support material in the province, we have delivered workbooks at 99% now, which just few individual schools which must be concluded today and probably by tomorrow. So the textbooks that we have given in terms of the rollout plan, as you understand that we once convened you in one of the warehouses in Wilsonia sometime last year at the end of the year, we are at 98.9% even there. So we don't have a crisis in terms of the textbooks that must be at our schools on next week. And in terms of the stationery, we have moved quite very efficiently. 7 districts out of 10, 7 districts out of 12 that we have are at 100% now. We don't have an issue with stationery. Out of 12, seven of them is 100%, and the rest is occupying as 96% in terms of the delivery of the learner support material, stationery in particular. We are going also to, we have already developed a mop-up exercise to accommodate the actual enrollment variations occasioned by the late applications and also walk-ins that are often characterizing the beginning of every academic year. Why we are bringing this to yourselves is that it's gonna be very difficult for you to isolate the schooling system in the country outside of the broad economic and spatial development that is happening in the country. Because remember, kids are always following where their parents are working, and hence sometimes you have others coming back as walk-ins because they were in Cape Town, they were in Joburg, they were in Durban, some interprovincial, they were in East London, now they are going back home. So I'm saying we have tried by all means also within the learner support material to provide such eventuality, precisely because of the environmental study that we have made, that we are a province with a special type from all the levels that we have. So hence I'm saying we needed to tighten up all the loose ends. In terms of the learner admissions, which also has been a critical component in the schooling system in the province for the past 5 years, if you would remember. In terms of the learner admissions, the department is obliged to ensure that all schools going age children are to get a place to fulfill their ambitions, to pursue their learning experiences. Our focus are children playing for the admission in the entry gates, your grade 1, for example, and grade 8. We are always challenged on that one. Not because you don't have schools again there, but because of sometimes relocation of parents moving from one area to another. For example, moving from some of the districts to metros in search of job opportunities. And that on its own has got a development that must be accommodated in the context of education. Hence I'm saying, when you talk development, you must be a bit broader and locate education as a sector within the broader scope of the development that is happening at that particular level. We have been able to make sure that the policy as required, the learners should apply for admissions and be duly admitted and placed in schools by the end of September of every year for the upcoming academic year. It is worth recording that learner admission processes has been successfully managed and completed, including placement of all learners of 9 out of 12 districts that we have in the province. You would also remember that the provisioning has been made to manage all cases of unplaced learners whose application and admission processes could not be finalized within the time frame cited above until December 2022 recess. The department established district learner admission committees with the support of the Eastern Cape DOE Provincial Office. This was done to ensure the quick response support to both parents and also respective areas. There are 3 districts with outstanding learners to still be admitting in our schools. It's Buffalo City Metro, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Sarah Batman. Last year, there were 4, including Joe Qabi, in particular the Alwal North area. But because we have been able to create a new school for Alwal North, Joe Qabi High, then we don't have that much of a crisis now this year, because we created a new school for Alwal North, which is Joe Qabi High, to accommodate that emerging increase of learners because of the migration patterns that I was talking about. Again, here in Buffalo City, we created another new school last year so as to absorb the pressure points of those learners that are moving from either outskirts of the province to the metros because of the population migrations that are happening. So we are currently dealing with that. It's not that much of a pressure point as the minister was articulating in Gauteng yesterday, because you could see that the country is having this phenomenon of unplaced learners, precisely, especially in urban and semi-urban areas. That has got more to do with the economies and spatial development that I was talking about. As today, 1,020 learners spread across the 3 districts are yet to be placed. It is expected that the district learner admission centers committees shall dispense with this number and allocate them to schools that still can accommodate them, with the aim of ensuring by the end of January all admissions shall have established or effective teaching and learning to take place. As schools open, it will be clear to which schools can accommodate more learners in their schools enrollment. The department had to come with a plan to curb the rate of this challenge. A new school, as I said, in Joe Qabi has been established just to make that reduction. But I would also want to emphasize on this one. Part of the problem of the learner admissions in the country has got more to do with the competitive nature of the schooling system you have in the country, not in the province. What you can call parent choices. A parent chooses to bring a school here in Sterling, living in Mdantsane, for example, and leaving schools with vacancies in Mdantsane, precisely either because of the curriculum design of that particular school or because of the performance systems of schools that vary from one school to another. Because there is no parent that will choose a school that is doubtful in terms of performance. And that is the issue that the country in general is confronted with. So hence you'd find admissions in various areas varies. Whilst you have got vacancies, for example, in Dujwa, but you have got fully fledged admissions in Butterworth. I'm just citing an example. So there is that dialectics, there are that dialectics that are currently underway in the context of admissions, which the HOD and the team are working on it, because at times they go with how we administer schools. At times they go with how we administer schools, how schools respond to the needs and demands of the communities that they serve. So it's quite a dynamic and a competitive kind of an environment, which at times make parents to choose awkward schools for their own kids. The third element is the scholar transport, which also is one of the key strategic areas of focus that we needed to resolve, so that we can be able to deal with the school readiness that we're talking about today. For 2023-2024 financial year, the number of learners to benefit in the scholar transport service is 103,000 learners. The Department of Transport has introduced a new system that integrates well with our own SSRs. This has created an improvement in the management of the scholar transport data. Both departments are collaborating to ensure that the new system is managed well and to eliminate all inefficiencies caused by incorrect data. Allow me to indicate to you that as we are seated here, all our schools have submitted the data for the coming financial year, including the proposed routes, and verification and approval has been done automatically by now. The department introduced the concept of walk-in buses. This has been done through the PWP, wherein parents or adults accompany learners to schools to ensure they arrive safe to and from schools. There are 21,174 learners from 376 schools that will benefit from this particular program. Those who travel less than 10 kilometers to schools, but the routes are the routes have been always been identified and are the ones that have been can classify as dangerous ones, which are falling into this particular category. So hence this particular policy that we have developed, just to ensure that they arrive safe, they are taken back safe, and because you'd understand that part of the strategic enemy of government generally now is crime. Crime is prevalent in the country, so you can't allow kids to travel alone where you are unable to provide transport on them, and we must mitigate that particular challenge. Hence I'm saying you must develop as much mitigative factors as possible so that your mandate of executing teaching and learning is not obstructed by any immediate challenge that government might be confronted with. Whether it's crime, it's poverty, it's what you needed, you have your plans according to what you want to achieve. Lastly, on school nutrition, the department provides meals to 1,626,465 learners in quintile 1 to 3 public ordinary schools, as well as targeted special schools. The provisioning for payment of 12,586 volunteers, food handlers, has been included in the transfer of funds to school. This is another grey area which government has made an effort more on it. Because remember, for you to respond to what you can regard it as access in the context of education, you needed to have some interventions of this particular nature, especially when you have got almost 40% of the population of the country living below the belt of poverty. So the system itself becomes a beacon of hope, not just to stabilize schools, but equally to respond to the triple crisis you have of unemployment, poverty, and inequality in the society that you have. So the ministry itself must be able to be realistic in terms of what is happening in the society. You can't run schooling system outside of broad challenges of the society in general. So hence I'm saying this is another area which I think we have been able to consolidate government and be able to make a significant contribution on it in order to secure a resounding performance of the schooling system we have in the province. In order to improve food security of learners in the current financial year, it has also included 2,080 schools for the provisioning of breakfast to 366,102 learners. That's another new version. We've brought in a breakfast now, again precisely because you have got kids that are coming from vulnerable poor families who might have not taken a supper last night, who might have not taken a breakfast in the morning before they come here. And for you to be able to, again, to achieve what you want to achieve, you must then be able to see how best do we respond to some of these matters. Yes, I agree, we may have not taken all of them, but this is a pilot project to ensure that if it works quite very well for us, how do we then mobilize resources to ensure that it becomes an overarching beneficiation to all institutions that we have in the province, and also all the learners that we have equally in the province. It has been a sustainable improvement of the increase from 19,000 learners prior to 2021, and the province will continue focusing on any viable opportunities to extend the gains of the breakfast program and strengthen, as I've said already. It is impossible to teach a hungry child, and therefore the department continues to support and implement the school nutrition program. In terms of the human resource provisioning, would want to report, ladies and gentlemen, that a post bucket of 52,817 we have declared in 2023 academic year. Subsequently to that, a PPN management plan was developed with the following critical dates. From the 16th to 17th January, we will have staff meetings to discuss the PPN as it has already been loaded to schools. On the 18th to 24th of January, the identification of additional educators per school will be happening. On the 25th of January to 27th, issuing of letters informing additional educators of their status. And on the 1st to 10th of February, issuing of placement letters to additional educators. On the 13th to 28th of February, the movement of additional educators as per their placement. Now, this is done in order to ensure that you have got proper educators to proper subjects to proper schools. You must be able to balance your human resource, which what then becomes the need of the institution of learning. For example, if there is an abundance of maths teachers in school X school Y does not have, you needed to spread that so that you are able to get as much possible your human resource accordingly. The department expects that by the end of February 2023, additional educators will be moved to where there are vacancies so that the teaching and learning can happen effectively and meaningfully, as well as to ensure there are no learners without a teacher. Where vacancies exist after placement of additional educators, appointments will be made. However, the appointment process will be closely monitored by the head office to ensure that districts do not oversubscribe to their post allocation. During the identification and placement of processes, district directors together with the HR will monitor areas of need and make immediate interventions that will ensure that the teaching and learning is not delayed. We want also to emphasize that in as much as you have got this management plan of the already existing human resource personnel in schools, the HOD has got all the rights to appoint a temporal educator where there is a need of a vacancy. We can't be waiting for this process. Because, for example, there are schools that are going to have vacancies as we speak. And therefore, schooling must start next week, and that placement talks to the ones that are within the system, does not talk to those that might be recruited as mitigation for purposes of temporal educators or temporal staff, to ensure that because of this placement, there are no kids that do not have teachers in front of them. So we do have that plan which we are dealing with. In terms of the infrastructure provisioning program director, during 2022 academic year, the Department of Education implemented and completed the following projects. 248 sanitation facilities, we have dealt with them. 278 water services, we have dealt with them. 17 electrification infrastructure in 17 schools, we have dealt with them. 319 classrooms to 32 grade R classrooms, we have also dealt with them. 27 libraries, 33 maintenance projects, and 23 fencing projects to various schools. We have already dealt with those projects that I'm talking about. As you have been observing, our aggressiveness in ensuring that infrastructure in the province is improved, because there is a relationship between infrastructure development and the quality of the education that we must provide. The department is also embarking on the process of relocating prefabricated classrooms from various completed schools to schools of need in terms of the additional learning space to address the overcrowding of schools for better teaching and learning. A total of 75 prefabricated classrooms shall be relocated by the 31st of January to 18 schools in the province, namely Krisani Public Schools in Krisani West, Jogabi, SS, the one that I was talking about in Jogabi, in Alwa North to be precise, Mtikaka, SS, and other schools of that are dire need of additional prefabricated infrastructure. Additional prefabricated structures are currently under construction, mostly above 50% completion. At 16 schools, earliest completion of that will be the 31st of January. Schools that are going to benefit out of that is Ngubesizwe Senior Secondary School, Engcobo Village, Jongindaba Senior Secondary School, Dinizulu High Schools, and also they are above 95% completion, some of them. A total of 59 storm damaged projects were also addressed and completed in 2022, with 12 projects still under construction, estimated to be completed by the 31st of January 2023. We are also we're having a dislodging program on the rollout of 407 schools, which has been divided into 24 clusters to address overflowing sanitation pits in various schools across the province. The site handover will commence on the 17th of January to be completed by the 25th of January. So by next week, we'll be busy in terms of ensuring that infrastructure is up to scratch in terms of these programs that have already been lifted. Again, from an infrastructure point of view, the department has to address the need of maintenance of schools in the province as an incentive to high-performing schools, high-enrollment schools. We have got 120 schools which were identified, 10 per district, which will be provided with minor maintenance of their infrastructure. The 120 minor maintenance program was formed, and all 120 schools have been assessed by now, and the appointment letters of 11 professional services providers has been concluded. So, whilst we are building new schools on the other side, we have got also a plan of maintaining the already existing ones, because of the nature of some of the schools that were dilapidated. So we targeted 120 schools this time around. And all those 120 schools must be renovated between now and the 30th and the end of the financial year, so that we are able to clean up all the problems relating to infrastructure in the province. The stakeholder engagement at the various districts has been completed for buy-in and support, and the department has engaged the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure for the utilization of their labor component to assist in addressing this particular need. Schools in need of fencing are also currently being addressed at 191 schools. 120 schools has already been implemented, and 71 of them by Kucha Development Agency across the province. For the 120 schools, PSP has already been appointed, and 22 schools are currently under construction. And then the plan is to hand over 10 schools between the 16th of January 2023 and the 20th of January. So in essence, by next week, we must be handing over in the province 10 schools, which in our view is a milestone that we think makes a difference. And if you follow us quite very well, you will see that we have handed over not less than 30 schools last year that were completed via the infrastructure. So it's something that probably we needed to appreciate. Again, Program Director, we want to report that the progress made by Kucha Development Agency on the 71 schools indicated that 69 of them currently under construction and will be completed by February. So in essence, we have turned the sector into a construction site. We have turned the sector into a construction site if you follow the statistics that have been given here. 44 schools in need of sanitation are currently being addressed by the department, and 48 awards were issued and site handovers are underway. That's again, which then indicates that the department has been at its own toes in ensuring that we turn the image of the province. The Eastern Cape Department of Education has been taken into court, if you remember, by 5 schools, and they were since been treated and addressed through an emergency program. These are earmarked for the site handover with effect from the 17th of January to 20th of January again. Such school is Kochana SPS in Namatole, Zolenqaba SPS in Namatole East, Kwanchuqa JSS at Namatole East, Dumkhana SS in OR Tambo Coastal, and Kwebichala SS in Namatole East. So we are also responding to some of the litigations that we had in the past, so that we don't appear to be reneging in terms of the law. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity and thank you for honoring the invite, and also make you aware that in few days the matric results of the country will be issued by the minister. And let me make this opportunity to encourage our learners as they eagerly await for their results to make sure that they use available resources provided by the department in the form of psychosocial support for any learner who might feel overwhelmed during this waiting period. Please do make sure that we are informed and will be there. This also goes for all of those who will need to make it through the line, and please talk to officials of the department as well as to the parents to ensure that there is a bit of social consistency. This is a very sensitive period, HOD. Some take their lives once they don't make it. Some feel they are useless because they have not passed. Some parents has their own ambitions about their own kids, and by extension, assuming that the learner also share the same sentiments, which is not there. And we need, therefore, to caution everybody. Let's support kids without reservation. Let's not put more pressure on them that is undue. Let's make sure that as families, we take responsibility for our own kids. We make sure that as families, we close ranks, make them comfortable, encourage them, motivate them, make sure that they are properly prepared for any eventuality that they might come across as they go to institutions of higher learning sometime next year, this year. So that all the gaps that could be there, either because of the creation of their own background, some might not even have registration fees for their own tuition. We need to close up that gap. Some might not even have clothes, for that matter, to go to institutions of learning. We also need to cushion each other around such issues so that we can have a better appreciation that we are a diverse society with all challenges of the economy that is not growing, which we were just discussing with the HOD as we're getting in, that probably at a strategic level, there is going to be a need of a serious discussion in the country. Whether can you sustain a welfare state with a non-growing economy in the country? That's another debate for another day at another platform. But I'm saying you have got that process that you needed to look into. Unfortunately, we are a sector that is overarching in society. There is no village that does not have a school. You might not find all the departments of government in each and every household, but this one is there. So that's why you must always be sensitive when you deal with the public about it, because this is the only department that they relate with. You might not find a clinic in a ward, but I can assure you there is no village in any ward in this country that does not have a school. So our mandate then is overstretched a bit, and we needed to be alive to that reality. My apologies for having taken a bit of time, Program Director. I just wanted to put matters into bear. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. MEC. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, JJ. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will take a round of questions. We may go for 2 rounds of questions. So we'll start with, what I'll do is I'll note you and then you will go as per the noting. I can see JJ, who else? Abo, I can see Ronald. So, Queenie. So in that order, comrades, your colleagues. Start JJ, then Abo, Queenie, then Ronald. Thank you.
Ngithanda ukuthi bandivulise ku-MEC nakwisikhokelo sesebe nakwa-education nakwi-colleagues zami. On the 18th, the taxi industry has threatened a shutdown that won't be transporting any kids or anything. And as much as it's a transport issue, it's also going to affect you because transport is basically carrying out your service as far as transporting of learners is concerned. What is your comment on that? And secondly, you are an advocate for hostels as a way of creating viable schools in the province. In a speech, I haven't seen anything talking about how many schools that are opening as hostels this year, as in to accommodate learners. So, thank you. So, are you able to tell us if, as the schools are opening next week, there will be schools that will be opening as hostels or together with hostels, or even schools that had hostels whose capacity has been increased in order to uptake in more learners? Thank you.
Thank you. Abo?
No, Sandy.
Kabashir.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Lamula, that side. Ronald? There.
Good morning, Ronald Masila from ENCA. Just a quick update from your MEC with regards to the amount of schools we have in the province. And out of that amount, did we have any schools that have closed or shut down? And then my last question is on schools being vandalized. Do we have a correct number on that? Thank you.
Queenie, you'll be the last one. Thank you.
Mandibulise ku MEC nesigaba sakhe ubongiwe Mandoyi we-BCM TV. Njengoba ndimamele ke MEC kuyilana report okokuqala ndizawufuna nje i-question emfutshane nje ukhona into yobana njengokubana kumele izikolo zivule nge-18 njengeripoti yakho etsho into yobana ngala mhla we-18 kuzobe kuvulwa izikolo kwaye kuqhutyeke kwane-education. Ndifuna uqonda ke ngoku malunga nezikolo zethu zaselokishini ixesha elininzi siye zibe kanti zirejistarisha abantwana kude kube iveki esibini. Ingabe le challenge injalo okanye ingumceli onjalo ekuhlaleni ithini indlela yokuhandlisha lo mcimbi lowo onjalo? Okwesibini, kwicala le-stationary itsho iripoti into yokubana out of i-district eziyi-12 i-7 ino-100% and then kube no-5 oseno-96%. Bona mhlawumbi aba bezo zikolo ndiqinisekile into yobana mhlawumbi kubo again kwezo zikolo ziyi-5 izophinda ibe ngumcelimngeni into yobana iqala kwesikolo kube kanti kuthatha i-delay. Mhlawumbi noba izawuthatha ixesha kangakanani zibe kanti ziyakhavarisheka ezo zikolo. Okwesithathu, ibe into ye-school transport othe wayichaphazela. Bendifuna uqonda ke njengobana kuthiwa abantwana abazawuthi babhenefithe kwesi school transport ngu-103,000. Ingaba kubalwa mhlawumbi abantwana aba bebesebekhona konyaka ophelileyo okanye kulungiselelwa nabantwana abazothi babe yiphathi yesikolo kulo nyaka soqalayo ka-2023? Okwesibini,